Recently, a friend of mine, Drew Boyles, came to me with this really cool project that he was doing to his building there in the Sleepy Hollow section of El Segundo. He was commissioning an artist to paint this mural on the side of his building, this really neat kind of crazy mural to kind of show what's going on in El Segundo and how a lot of it is changing lately. He commissioned this artist, Damian Fulton, and I had heard of him through some mutual friends, and he does some incredible paintings. And it just kind of draws in a lot of the South Bay, including a lot of the ocean, surfing, people. And so I was excited to be able to kind of sit down with him and really pick his brain and see what goes into some of these paintings.
A lot of people ask, like, where did that style come from? And really, it's just what I know. It's sort of a mashup of everything I've been doing since I was a kid. I loved old monster movies and cartoons. I grew up in California where there was a big car culture, motorcycle culture. The beach was always just a bicycle ride away, and it called to me. And so that's just sort of amalgamation of everything I know. I think the unique perspective that I am interested in is why all this stuff ends up right on the shore. Why does this kind of collision of beautiful ocean, pristine, and this tsunami of civilization from LA? That's what's really interesting. A lot of times the imagery that you see is characteristic of the antithesis of what I grew up on. I thought surfing was Gidget and all the Beach Boys surf movie kind of things, really antiseptic and pristine and palm trees blowing in the breeze. But when I would ride my bike down to Huntington Beach, it was not that. It was a place where gang members and dregs congregated, and as kids, that's was where we went. So that's what we saw, and it was like culture shock, and that reverberates today here in the South Bay, where in between all the smokestacks and the wires and the fences and the onslaught of people, there's the ocean, and it's beautiful and it's consistent and it's beckoning, and it beckons all kinds of interesting people here, and they tend to end up in my paintings. People ask me, like, what is my favorite piece? That's like saying, which of your 4 kids do you like the most? I don't have a favorite. I mean, I like the pieces that feel the most original to me, maybe, that are iconic, and people look at them and say, oh, that's looks like Damian did that. Those are the most rewarding. I do a lot of different kinds of art. I mean, a lot of different paintings, but the ones that are most important to me are the ones that came from a totally original place for me. They're not really they may look very familiar to a lot of people as far as some of the imagery in it, but to me, it's the juxtaposition of all these things that are close to me that come together that make it important and personal. I didn't pioneer this trend of sort of urban surf art. There was a lot of guys that came before me, a lot of great surf artists, including Rick Griffin, who was known for Zap Comics and sort of the pop surrealist of the time. Robert Williams was a big influence of mine, and then, gosh, it's just such an amalgamation of different types. I loved old Conan book covers painted by Frazetta. I like the storytelling of Norman Rockwell. I know that sounds really like not cool, but Norman Rockwell is a master. Well, there's 2 phases to a painting. The first is understanding the space and what it's meant to do and who's going to view it. So the first phase is panic, and then trying to figure out, what is the story and what is going to resonate with the audience. Because I'd like to tell you that I only paint for myself, and I'm just holed up in my super secret lab, but that's not the case. I want to make things that resonate, people can relate to. The first phase is coming up with what the concept is. Once I have that, then it's all cool. Once I understand what the story is, who are the main subject in the narrative in the canvas, whether it's this big or gigantic, that's the tough stuff. And then the painting is just a lot of fun. That's meditative and exciting, and that's the best. Advice for the up-and-comers: I'm ruthless, and I tell you to learn to draw. Draw, study, put down your cell phone, spend more hours drawing and painting than you do socializing, because it doesn't do a bit of good. But learn to draw, learn anatomy, understand perspective, understand contrast, understand a little bit of color theory. Just because you only draw in pencil and black and white doesn't make you really deep. Learn way more than you think you'll ever learn or you'll ever use. When you want to do something substantial, you're going to call on all those skills that you've acquired through all the horrible classes you took that you swore you'd never use. Being a South Bay artist of any type, you are exposed to the density, to the population, to the history that is the South Bay. You know, the epicenter of aerospace, you know, the Hyperion plant, the big power stations in Hermosa. I mean, all up and down the South Bay area, there's industry. Real people live here. And so it's not just a postcard vision of the Pacific Ocean. It's kind of real working people who have decided to stay here, put up a shingle and work in the South Bay. But you know, we choose to live here. It's kind of a funny thing. We complain about it and cry about the traffic and how congested and how dense it all is here, and how busy and the pace. But guess what? We choose to live here, and I think you just start calling it your home, and you live there and you make the best out of it you can.